Hey, so welcome to the start of a full 24 hours of reading. You may have seen my video from earlier this month where I said what I was going to be reading in February. I haven't read quite as much as I was expecting to, especially in the week. So it's now Saturday and I'm gonna just kind of huddle down in blankets and read as much as I can for the next day and a bit. I'm gonna try and do like a full 24 hours. However, I'm gonna do it with pauses. So I'm obviously going to eat. If you can't tell from my voice, I'm at the back end of a cold. So I'm still gonna sleep because obviously I don't want to make myself even more ill. But I'm gonna try to take breaks and like just time myself for the 24 hours. But I'm starting at midday. It's midday right now on Saturday, and I'm probably gonna aim to be reading till like 8 p.m. tomorrow. So it's 24 plus 8, so it'll be like 32 hours of reading, but obviously including sleep and eating times in there as well. And then I'm going to be reading all the books that are on my TBR list if you want to go watch that video as well. But quick overview, it is these books here. It is a lot of books. I don't expect to read all of them by any means. And I've already started reading Emily Wilde, Outlander, The Moonstone. So I'm hoping I'm enjoying them, but let's see how I do. I'm probably going to go smallest to biggest as well, just so that I try to get through more than I would hope to if I was just reading the top two. But first off, I'm going to finish Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies because I'm 226 pages out of, I think it's just over 320 pages. Oh, 310 approximately. So yeah, I'm less than 100 pages left of this book anyway, so I'm going to start here and like hopefully start off pretty good and finish this before I have any lunch as well. An hour and 15 minutes reading, and I finished Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I really loved it. I think when I picked it up, or I pre-ordered it even, I thought it was going to be like Spiderwick Chronicles, kind of that kind of fairy academic vibe, and it is. It's really fun, except it's a lot more adult. It's not a kid's book like Spiderwick Chronicles. It's also very different in that Emily Wilde is like the main person writing. It's her journal that we're reading, and I really loved all the characters, including Wendell, who is her colleague turned friend, and his secrets that we find out, as well as Shadow the dog, who I just adore and would love my own. We also meet all the different like villagers in the small town that they've moved to, who become like family. It's very found family trope there at the end, and I just love seeing all the different kind of fae that they bring on. There's lots of different names for them, but there's lots of brownies. There's the High Court Fae, which are like the humans, like the vicious ones in like the Cruel Prince series and Holly Black writes about. And then there's many more mentions of kelpies, kobolds, everything. It's just felt magical throughout. I really enjoyed the story. I didn't quite know where it was going. Obviously we were in this place for Emily's encyclopedia, but there was kind of an overarching story as we learn more about the fae in that area of the world, and then come into contact with them as well, and a adventure happens. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who's not read it yet, but yeah, it was a really good read. I definitely would recommend it to any fantasy lovers. It was also quite a quick read. Like I finished quite quickly. I only started it this week, and I've been reading other books too. But now I'm probably going to go and grab some leftover pizza that I had from yesterday for lunch, and then I'm going to read, I think I will either start reading the next Witcher book, because that's quite a small book, and I just finished the second book in the series, Time of Contempt, this week, so it's kind of fresh in my mind. Or I think, and this is probably going to fall over in a second, or I'm going to read Leicester, which is my contemporary pick of the month. Again, it's a very small book. I'm hoping to read it before like it gets dark, but I'm hoping it also kind of, it's like a different book between fantasy books, because every other book is fantasy basically. So yeah, I'll let you know what I'm reading in a bit. So it's about just after 3 o'clock. I've been reading for about 2.5 hours, and I'm about 80. Oh, upside down. I'm about 80 pages into Leicester by Raven Lalani. This book is very much contemporary, very much adult. It's about a lot of sex, and our main character has had sex a lot with co-workers and Eric, the man she's dating. The book itself is about her relationship with Eric, as well as her relationship with Eric's wife. They're in an open marriage. His wife knows about the affair that's happening, and is in on it. In the little that I've read, we have met our main character Edie has met Rebecca, his wife, and yeah, shit's going down. Our main character's life is also a bit shit. She's in her early 20s, in that age where you don't really know what you're doing and decisions to make, and in the bit that I literally just read, she's fired from her job. There's a lot of themes in the book, which I'm loving. Edie is one of the only black women in her office, apart from one other, and there's kind of a discussion between them about how, you know, you can't just be mediocre, you have to be like better immediately, and there's discussions about race very distinctly within the workplace. And I've still got a cold, so my nose is completely blocked still, but it was really good to read this and see it brought to the front of the industry. Edie also works in publishing, so it's really interesting to read that as well. I'm enjoying it so far. It's definitely not what I would normally pick up, but it's interesting to read, so I'm hoping to enjoy the rest of it. I'm going to continue reading now as well. Okay, so it's just gone 5:30, and I've been reading for about 4.5 hours so far into the 24-hour readathon, and I've just finished Leicester, which is an amazing book. So there's two things about this book that I love, and the first one is how Edie grows and evolves throughout the book. As I was saying before, it's very much kind of solidified in the coming of age in your early 20s, where you don't really know what's going on as a woman, and specifically for Edie as a black woman, it's very different for her to get through life, and how she lives it. And then the second one is how I love the female relationships in the book. So Edie forms a really great bond with Akila, who is Rebecca and Eric's daughter, but adopted daughter. So Akila is also a black woman, and this gives them like a formative bond where there's kind of an unspoken and unsaid thing that Edie is going to help Akila with things like her hair and kind of navigating through life as a young black woman. And then I also love the relationships between Rebecca and Edie, as although obviously it's the other woman, a woman scorned, there's a lot of anger and tension. There's clearly like a positive bond there, and it's very formative to Edie as a young woman to have someone in her life like Rebecca. And I just really think it's written really well. I love that Eric actually, whilst at the beginning Edie is kind of caught up with him, it changes by the end of the book. And I really want to just go through a quote which I thought was really like formative in how I see a lot of these relationships happening. He is the most obvious thing that has ever happened to me. And all around the city it is happening to other silly half-formed women excited by men who've simply met the prerequisite of living a little more life. A terribly unspecial thing that is just what happens when you keep on getting up and brushing your teeth and going to work and ignoring the whisper that comes to you at night and tells you it would be easier to be dead. So sure, an older man is wonder because he has paid 38 years of Con Ed bills and suffered food poisoning and seen the climate reports and still not killed himself. But somehow, after being a woman for 23 years, after the ovarian torsion and student loans and newfangled Nazis and button-downs, I too am still alive. And actually this is the more remarkable feat. Instead, I let myself be awed by his middling command of the wine list. And I just think this whole quote and this understanding from Edie that actually like this mediocre man is not something to be in awe over, and it's not something that, you know, she needs to feel less than because she's just as accomplished as this man. I just loved it. It really stuck out to me when I was reading it. I just had to read it out to you guys. And yeah, as you can tell, it's getting dark, so, and I don't think this is the best lighting, so apologies. So I'm probably going to have to grab another coffee soon and probably get something to eat because it is nearing 6 o'clock. And then I'm probably going to start reading. I'm kind of tossing up between either either Baptism of Fire, which is the next Witcher book in the series, and if I finish this it means I've read both the books I wanted to read from this series this month. Or I want to read The Last of the Flower Bride or Song of Silver, Flame Like Night. And this is because both of these were pre-orders that I got this month. They're both on my TBR, but I haven't actually read a first chapter like I have the rest of the book, so I'm excited to get started on them. They're both fantasy as well. And yeah, it's part of my New Year's resolution to read books as I get them, so these are on my list. So depending how I feel, it might be one of these two or it might be The Witcher. I'm gonna go get a drink and then I'm gonna see how I feel. Okay, so it's about 7:30. I've read about 6 hours worth. I'd probably have to add it up in a bit. And I've read about just over 100 pages of The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, and it's like very fantasy focused. There's an other world, and there's like a missing sibling and also a missing like childhood friend. And kind of the mystery is about Indigo and what she is and who she is and what happened to her. And then her husband is trying not to pry into her past, but is failing terribly. It's very quite dark, fairy tale like. There's a lot of like myths and legends being talked about by our main characters as well, and kind of linking them up to the story. And it's just very beautifully written. It's very like fairy tale like in how we're reading about the story, but it's also kind of like dark gothic, a little bit horror-y, like you kind of expect something bad to happen. There's definitely kind of eerie vibes, but yeah, I'm really loving it so far. I'm gonna go get some food because I'm starving. But I am currently having a very cozy evening, and I'm hoping to read more into this night as well. Okay, so it's early morning on Sunday. I've slept in a bit longer than I wanted to / expected to. I'm gonna blame getting over a cold
I'm being sick, but it's probably just laziness. But I did finish the last tale of the Flower Bride last night before I went to bed. I think I finished this about 10, half 10. So I managed about 8 to 9 hours of reading yesterday. I'll double check that before I edit this. And then it was a really fun read. It was very gothic, horror themed. I just want to say it's fantasy, so I pre-ordered this because I thought it was going to be more fantasy. And it is. There are a lot of myths, legends, fairy tales, etc., weaved into the storyline and how it connects to the plot. And there are mentions of like fae, and the other world is meant to be like a world to fae and things like that. However, the best thing about this book is that it's a mystery, and it's like a gothic horror mystery. It's quite eerie, and until the end of the book, and even after the end of the book, you don't actually know if the fantasy elements are real or if they are part of our characters' imaginations and like manipulations, I should say. So it's quite interesting that way. I'm still trying to think through it. I think when I actually review the book, I'll probably put that into much better words than what I've just said, especially when I'm more awake. But yeah, it's a really great book. I loved it really showed like toxic relationships between, in both a platonic, like, oh, we're sisters rather than friends, and also in the romantic sense between the husband and wife. We also see very toxic relationships between family members. So there's Tati and Indigo, who are related as well by blood. And overall, just like the plot line, it is, if you've read a lot of mysteries, thrillers, etc., I feel like you probably could guess the ending. It is hinted at throughout the book. However, I loved it. I was going into it, I kind of expected the ending, but I still loved reading it. It didn't take away from the ending, if that makes sense. So yeah, would definitely recommend reading this. It's now, I think it's like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I think I'm going to read The Witcher or Flame of Silver, but we'll see.
It's just gone 10:30, and I'm about 100 pages into Baptism of Fire. I'm really enjoying it so far, although it is a lot slower than the other books I've been reading because it's very political focused, and also like I've noticed that the Witcher books don't always focus on the Witcher. So the first basically whole chapter, like each chapter is like 50 to 80 pages long, and the first chapter is all about other characters. It's kind of like an extended prologue, and then we get to the bit with the Witcher and Dandelion, and I find that quite dull to read. Like, I feel like I'm very connected to the character of the Witcher and not the other characters, so sometimes this kind of dulls it a little bit. But other than that, I am really enjoying it, and it does set up these other characters to be like very fleshed out characters, which I do enjoy. But yeah, it's a lot slower going than the other books. I'm 100 pages in, well, 105 pages in, and I've been reading for about 2 hours. So it's probably takes 6 hours to read this, and it only took me 4 hours to read The Flower Bride, which was around the similar length, I would say. This one's definitely smaller looking as well, so it's a bit of a surprise, I guess. But yeah, I've had breakfast. It's sunny out. I don't know if you can tell, but I can actually see blue skies for once. And I've got my water bottle here, and I've got my electric blanket, and I'm fully prepped to be reading for the rest of today. I will probably take a break at around lunchtime. I might actually swap books, just so I can read a bit faster, because I know this one is taking up my time. But I do have, so my choices are still Song of Silver Flame at Night, which I also, it's quite a chunky book. I didn't realise it was going to be this long, but this is a 450 page book. And then I also have my other two chunky books, which are Outlander, which I've already read this much of before, and then Violet Empire, which I have read the first chapter of, also a chunky book, but 600 pages, 800 pages, 800 pages, 600 pages, 400 pages. Then I've also got my classic book, The Moonstone, although I don't think, if I'm struggling with The Witcher because it's making me read slow, I do think The Moonstone is probably not a good choice, as I will also read this one quite slowly. But again, this one is quite a thick book, and it's 600 pages as well. So I might swap to, which one should I swap to? I probably will swap to this one if I'm going to swap to anyone, or maybe continue reading Outlander, because I have been enjoying that. But I don't know if I'm going to finish any more books today after yesterday's very good run. Yeah, I might get another coffee in a bit as well, and I'm looking around. I should be tidying, but I will not be doing that today, so okay, so it's just before 3 o'clock. I read about 4 hours today. I went for lunch, and then I had an accidental nap, so I've missed out some key reading time in the middle of the day. So I've relocated myself back to my bed and into the sunlight to try and keep me awake. I've also opened all the windows so that there's fresh air, and so I've put my hoodie on to try and keep warm as well. But I'm about 150 pages into Song of Silver Flame Like Night, and I'm really enjoying it so far. It's very, I want to say Chinese inspired, but I might be wrong on that one. But it's very much, we have 2 point of view characters, Lan and Zen. Lan is like, her mother died when she was younger, and she's been kind of just surviving. And then Zen is like, he actually grew up learning how to use magic, so he knows everything, and he's going to help Lan. And that's kind of the dynamic. It's quite, there's some tension there. There's people after them, because you're not actually meant to be using magic, because the colonizers, the Atlanteans, don't allow it unless it's them who have like metal powers. And then the Hin, their actual powers are a bit more like soul, spirit, connected to nature and yin and yang, rather than metal like the Atlanteans. But yeah, I'm really loving it so far. I'm going to continue reading it. I'm hopefully getting some hours. I do not think I'm going to be able to read all 24 hours at all today. So I'm going to read as much as I can, and then I'll add up at the end how many hours I actually read, and then also how much I read in that time too. So hopefully that'll be interesting anyway. And yeah, sorry, I'm still half asleep from my nap, so I'm going to hopefully wake up soon with the sunlight right in my eyes. I'm also hoping the sun comes out more in the future weeks, just so we can get a bit more sunlight, a little bit better moods kind of thing. Okay, so it's just gone past 8 o'clock on Sunday night, and I've just finished Song of Silver, Flame Like Night, and I adored it. It's mainly about I looked it up during the break, and it is Chinese based, on folklore and myth. There's all the characters on the front cover are the tortoise, the azure tiger, silver dragon, and the phoenix, I think it is. They're all like demon gods in this world. There's a lot of like folklore and myth underpinning everything, which our main character who we follow, Van, doesn't really know much about because she's been just surviving this whole time. But our other main character, Zen, has a lot more information because he's been studying it, and a lot of the histories he's been studying is like the real history that's been like hidden over the years. It's really interesting, and the main kind of concept is like that power corrupts. So whilst they can use the godly powers given to them by these demon gods, you shouldn't be doing it because actually it's not good and it's bad, and it actually can cause more harm than good. And throughout the story, lots of things happen that kind of proves this point very well to our characters and to the reader as well. But yeah, as I said, it's 8 o'clock on Sunday. I think I'm done. I'm very tired. I'm still getting over my cold, so apologies if I sound funny. And I've just read a lot. So I finished 4 books in 2 days. All of these, which I've loved all of them. And then I've also finished 100 pages of this book, The Witcher: Baptism of Fire. And I did also read Outlander yesterday before I started filming, so I've read a lot this weekend, so I'm probably going to go and watch some YouTube videos or something in bed and have an early night so that I feel a lot better ready for Monday for work. But I just wanted a quick roundup of what I did, because I did say 24 hours and I didn't read for 24 hours at all, but I did read a lot during the past 36 hours, let's say. I actually read for 8 hours and 45 minutes yesterday and 8 hours and 30 minutes today, with 578 pages yesterday and 560 pages today. So overall I read 1,138 pages and read for 17 hours and 15 minutes. So bearing in mind I did say at the beginning that I was going to sleep and eat still, that gave me like 6 hours and 45 minutes that I wasn't reading in the 24 hours because I was sleeping and eating, even though I gave myself more than 24 hours to do everything in. But yeah, hopefully this was a good video, interesting. All of these books I'm recommending to you if you have any interest, especially if you like fantasy books. I definitely recommend Song of Silver, Flame Like Night, and Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. If you're a more contemporary lover, I would recommend Luster, but I think a lot of people wouldn't like it if you're more fantasy orientated. And yeah, I recommend them all. So thank you for watching, and I hope to have another video out soon.